Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is goingsolomedia.com, and I hope that you guys will join us there. Check out all of our wonderful hosts and guests that we have. Just go on goingsolomedia.com. You're going to see a new face for us because we started a new umbrella because we're growing like crazy, and we're not just going solo, we're also going bold. So you're going to see new streaming network, and new streaming is basically worldwide. So it's worldwide entertainment, and we hope that you'll enjoy that. But this show is Going Solo with Cece, and I am Cece Schatz. I'm the doyen of relationship building. I am a divorce, dating, and a life coach, and I really help people move through I'm the organization of this particular network. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I want to thank you for listening to us on Roku and Amazon TV. Bless your hearts. You've got us up to 5.8 million. And those of you that are watching us there, I want to do a shout out to you and thank you so much for doing that. But we don't have any more time to waste on this introduction. We've got to move right on to our guest today because we are going to be talking about Into Each Life a Little Rain Must Fall with Daniel Neff. He's the author of that. He's actually written 6 books, and Daniel is a 23-year survivor of terminal cancer. Before his experience with cancer, Daniel never thought about writing a book, and now here he did. He's written 6. So we're going to welcome him to the show. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Daniel.
Thank you for having me on.
It is great having you. What an inspiration you are, sir. So thank you so much for not only, surviving probably one of the most difficult times in your life, cancer, but, now sharing it with the world and, embracing your talent for writing. So tell us a little bit about your journey as much as you can that you would like to share.
Okay, I'll try to share it without making too long of a story. Basically, about 24 years ago is when I got sick with cancer. And to backtrack a little bit before that, because it plays into my story, and also if people go to my website, they'll see that my identity is I call myself a story architect because architecture was always one of my dreams. I really wanted to be an architect. Didn't follow through on it. And at the age of 35, I decided I'm going to go ahead and follow this dream. I'm not going to put it off any longer. I'm going to go back to school and be an architect. And so I applied to the University of Cincinnati. I was accepted, and I was due to start in the fall of 2000. And so I was all excited because here I was finally going to get to fulfill my lifelong dream. And then in May of 2000, I got sick, and I won't give you all the details because again, it gets too long a story. You can get my first book, which is the one that got me into writing. And all of my books are listed on the website. And also, additionally, I just want to say all of my books are on Amazon, and they're all on Kindle and all available in the Kindle Unlimited program. So if people have a Kindle and have the Kindle Unlimited, they can, I believe the way it works, they can download and read those books for free. But so I was getting ready to fulfill my lifelong dream, and then I got sick. And what I was saying, I didn't want to go into the long story, but basically, I was kind of like an episode of House, if anybody's ever watched the TV show, where it took them to about 5 different diagnoses before they finally determined that I had cancer. And it was in my lungs. My lungs were all full of it. I went through the traditional chemo treatment, didn't work. And it was so bad that they told me, well, you need to do the bone marrow transplant, but your lungs are so bad that you will probably die from this. But if you don't do it, you will die from the cancer. And so that's what I was faced with. And while I was in the hospital in December of 2000, spent almost an entire month in the hospital. An elderly couple from my church, an Episcopal priest and his wife, came and they read to me a passage from the Old Testament. And basically, it was about preaching good tidings to the captives and the oil of joy for mourning and liberty to the captives and whatnot. And as he read it, I knew that I was supposed to give up my dream of being an architect. And I guess I need to backtrack for a second again, because when my ex-wife and I had met before I applied to go back to school to be an architect, we had worked in group homes with troubled teenagers. And I really enjoyed doing that and wanted to do more of that, but it got put on the back burner. And then I decided to pursue this stream of architecture. And when they were reading that to me, it's like I knew that God was saying, "Give up that dream. I want you to go work full time with troubled teenagers." Which and so, long story short, I found out about a nutritional alternative, and it obviously worked for me. And the reason why I call it terminal cancer, kind of with quotes, kind of as a tongue in cheek, is that basically the doctors told me in February 2001, when I decided I was not going to do the bone marrow transplant, I was not going to do any more chemo. I was done with all of that because I had prayed and I'd gotten an absolute peace from God that I was supposed to say no to all of that. When at the time I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that that was the right thing. And when I told the doctors that in February of 2001, they told me, they said, "That's your decision, but your life expectancy is going to be months, maybe weeks." And didn't that didn't dissuade me at all. I was like, "That's fine. I know what I'm supposed to do." And then I found out about a nutritional alternative, followed that, and long story short, here I am alive and well. And so about 13 years ago, when my ex-wife and I found ourselves suddenly out of work in the group home field, and I was just on unemployment, no job, and I realized I needed to write a book, and that was this book, my first book. Um, I need to write a book about my experience because there was a lot more to it than that.
Mhm.
And once I got into the process of writing, and I wrote, I did the cover myself, I did everything, and got it self published on Amazon in about 6 months from when I started writing it. And I'd never written a book before, never thought about it. But through that process, I found out that I really enjoyed writing. And from a lot of the feedback that I got from people, I believe that I have a talent for writing. I got a lot of positive feedback, and not just like from my mother and friends, because of course your mother's always going to say, "Oh, it's the greatest book I've ever read," but it was people who were not family or friends. Um, and then one just quick side note before I let you ask other questions you have is the book we are talking about, "Into Each Life a Little Rain Must Fall," is a completely fictional book, but it's loosely based on my experiences in group homes with troubled teenagers. Um, and so, um, and so that's kind of where the inspiration for that came from.
It's amazing how in our lives we think we're supposed to go down this particular path, right? And I've
Mhm.
often said, for me, God will show me a way, and instead of going through the door, I've got to go through the window. I have to do
Um,
it the hard way, and I don't always see what is ahead of me, and instead of moving forward. And I think that's kind of like where you were at with regards to your path. It's like, even though you did have a dream and a desire to do one thing, you have gone through the twists and turns of life, and you're on a different path now. And it doesn't make, and the reason I want to share this, because it doesn't make it unhappy for an individual to do that. And we have a lot of people out there on the Going Solo network that are feeling that themselves right now. They're feeling like they thought they had a path in mind. They thought they had their future planned, and then they get divorced or something happens to them, and a lot of twists and turns starts happening, and it really sends them into anxiety and the unknown and that type of thing. And I thought, really, Daniel, it would be so nice to have you on the show to show that to them that sometimes we don't know, our chapters aren't written, and we don't know what the end result's going to be. And, you've even, had cancer, and serious cancer, not one that, I mean, all cancer serious, but I mean, to where it was a life and death for you. You were on the doorstep there, and you've been was able to by the grace of God turn that around to, now being well enough to be able to go on and, and serve and work and do what you do. So, I'm just hoping that this show will give those people that are struggling the inspiration that, their chapters are not, the book is not written, their chapters are not in stone, and that they can carry on and flow with, what is that? What is that saying that says flow with the tide, or the ebb of tide, or something like that? So flow, you're the writer. Flow with that. I'm not, but no. But yeah, but I do feel like we're given a gift, and yours is probably definitely writing. I had just to share with you, I was in a co-author in a collaborative book, and I had to write a chapter, right? And I was stressing out over it because I just have the gift for gab versus writing technique. I really don't have that. And I put it off and put it off. And finally, she said to me, I really do need your chapter. And so I said, okay, I'll give it to you tomorrow. So tomorrow came, right? And here I am. I get up early in the morning because I'm always better fresh in the morning. And I sat down and I wrote my whole chapter like within a half an hour. I mean, I just sat, and I think, God had a hand in it to write it, and very little editing she had to do. And it was all great. And so, I think we're touched sometimes, and definitely you in your lifetime, you have definitely been, and so that's terrific. So your first book was based on cancer, based on your life, through that, the trials and everything that you went through. Now tell us a little bit about your second book that you wrote.
Okay, but first I wanted to speak to what you were saying about
Oh,
people
okay.
who feel like they kind of got derailed and
Mhm.
not living out their dreams or their hopes and dreams.
Mhm.
When you were talking about that, I was thinking about how up until the time I got sick, it's like being an architect was just my greatest dream and what I really wanted to do, and I was so excited that I was finally at the age of 35 going to pursue that and going to get to do what I'd always wanted to do, and it didn't work out because I got sick and had to let go of that. But through getting cancer and then surviving and then the whole story and then writing a book about it, I discovered this passion and talent for writing. And I can honestly say I don't believe, I mean, it might have been equal, but I don't believe I would have enjoyed being an architect more than I enjoy writing, because I really, really enjoy writing. Um, and so, like you were saying, everything might fall apart and you might think, okay, what I thought my life was going to be, it's not, all hope is lost. Well, a lot of times it actually turns out that it turns into something better than you even thought that you had for yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, growing up, I wanted to be a makeup artist. That's what I wanted to be. And I kind of went through and did some of the things, cosmetology and all those things like that. And then my family came along, and then I ended up taking care of my children. And then I kind of like lost that dream. And then when I got a divorce, I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. And I thought, what am I, how am I going to survive? And I started doing, work where I was helping, with my husband doing the accounting and things like that. But I don't really like it. I don't enjoy doing it. I can do it, but I don't, it's not, it doesn't, I don't get up in the morning and say, yahoo, let's do someone's books,
Right, right.
So, I mean, I came across what I'm doing today just by accident, by a good friend from high school who had a show, and I was helping with the divorce, people with divorce, because I was struggling myself. And I went on her show, and then I was offered a show. And so here now I'm in this whole different path, which I absolutely love,
Right.
being able to interview people like yourself. So again, like you said, you may feel like your life is derailed, that you're going through some struggles and different things that are happening, but you don't know what's on the other side of that. And so sometimes you have to have some faith, a leap of faith, and to be able to kind of move through it, as you do, and open yourself up to new experiences. Because I will share with you just real quick, and we'll go on, because I don't want to take up your time. But in my divorce support group over the years, those individuals have been able to tap into what brings them joy. I used to always say, think about like when you were a child, what did you truly enjoy doing? Did you enjoy writing? Did you enjoy, like one lady was acting. She ended up going to school and now she's an actress today. I mean, I'm so proud of her. And then we've had people that have gone into the arts and sculpting and art and painting and all these different types of fields. And I had one guy, he was a comedian. He started being a stand-up, like kind of a improv kind of comedian. It was like, I went to go see, he said, Cece, will you come and see? I said, yeah, I'll be. He was great. So it's like tapping into, what really I think, God-given talent that you might very well have. And allowing ourselves to experience that. And sometimes when we're at our lowest is when we can rise above. And so, kudos to you for looking ahead and not giving up and, moving forward, knowing that there's a place for you, that there's something better that you need to experience and to share. So good job for that. So.
Okay, so getting back to the second book that I wrote after my cancer experience book, and it was just a straight fiction book. And what the genesis for it was is I just thought about several movies that I remember seeing, and the whole premise of the movie was this family goes away for summer vacation, like to an island or somewhere, and that was the whole premise of the movie. And so I thought, well, that's obviously a powerful premise because it's used over and over. And so the story starts out. It's this man. He has a wife and two children, and they have a summer home on an island off the coast of Maine that was handed down from his father and from his grandfather. And there was a mysterious incident when he was a boy. There was a cave at the base of these cliffs, at the edge of the water, the edge of the ocean, and there were all kinds of mysterious stories about what it was. It was maybe a pirate hideout, and there might be treasure in there, or it was a secret spy hideout. And there was an incident where he and some of his friends went to explore it. They were on a boat, and the boat hit the rocks and crashed and sank, and they all kind of passed out. But at the very last moment, he thought he remembered seeing men in kind of like frogman suits, like wetsuits and scuba gear and whatnot. And that's all he remembered. And he goes away for the summer with his family to this island, and he finds this mysterious device, and he starts investigating further. And I don't really want to give away too much of the story, but
it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that one. And that one's called Donovan's Island. And just maybe that's a little foreshadowing is the name Donovan's Island comes from William Donovan. I believe he was either the first director of the CIA, or he had something to do with the initiation of the CIA years ago. Mm-hmm. And so and that book is, like I said, is completed, and I do have a sequel to that, partially written but not fully written. But that is available on paperback and Kindle.
Wonderful. So now you went from your first book, which was more real life, right?
Right.
The cancer, and then going into a fictional book. How was that for you to switch gears into writing?
I don't think it was really that hard. I think probably all along that was really more where my interest lied. It's just the first book was, I felt like one of those things where I had to share it because I'd gone through so much and it was such an amazing story. And then that just opened the door to writing. So when I started writing, most of what I've written aside from that has been fiction, and it came easily. And I think, I don't know how many of your listeners are old enough to or remember the Hardy Boys mystery book series, but I probably read all of those and was a big fan of those when I was younger. And I think Donovan's Island, people will see a lot of influence of that in there. So I think I already had that in my kind of subconscious in my experience, so it was not that difficult.
Now, is that book that even teens can read, or is it?
Oh yes, yeah. All of my books pretty much are very like family friendly, like PG rated.
Mhm.
I don't have any gratuitous scenes, language almost. I mean, it's barely a PG rating. So yeah, but most people that read them find them compelling and interesting. But yes, young people could read them without the parents having any concern about the content they're reading.
Great. So maybe you'll be the next writer for those series of books. It would be kind of interesting, but definitely. And then your next book after that, what was that one?
So the next one is called The Mystery of Lake Clandestine, and it's been kind of interesting. The most of the stories that I write, they start out as one little nugget that just kind of grows, because that book is based on there's a lake in Western North Carolina. I live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and
Mhm.
there's a lake just west of here called Lake James, and it's a pretty good sized lake, and it sits right at the edge of the mountains. And I didn't realize how deep the lake was, but apparently it's about 200 feet deep at its deepest. And I had met a man and was friends with him, and he owned a marina on Lake James. And he was just telling me some facts. He was telling me that when they lower the level of the water to work on the dam, it was a lake so deep that you can still see the tops of some of the houses and buildings that were in the town they flooded when they formed the lake. And so that got me thinking, okay, what if there was one small town and the people of that town did not want to sell, did not want to give up their homes, so they refused to sell to the developer. And well, it turns out that one of the residents of that town, he was a retired nuclear engineer from the army, and this was back in like the 1950s, 1960s when the lake was formed. And he had built a bomb shelter because back that at that time, people were constantly afraid there was going to be global nuclear war. So a lot of people had bomb shelters. So he had built a bomb shelter, and one little thing that comes up later is that he had built a tiny nuclear reactor in his bomb shelter. And so he and a bunch of people from the town, so then what happened is the greedy developer who was building the lake did not want to be held up. So he convinced these people of this town that nuclear war had broken out so they would go into the bomb shelter. And when they did, he blew the upper dams and flooded the lake and trapped them at the bottom of the lake. Well, 30 years later, they're still alive because they have heat and light from that nuclear reactor, and they were able to figure out a way through the door, like to get fish out of the lake and for food. And so they survived for 30 years. And again, don't want to give away the ending, but and there's also one of the themes that kind of runs through my books and my stories is redemption. Like
Mhm.
the story of redemption and my Christian faith is what carried me through when I had, terminal cancer.
Mhm.
But so the greedy developer who did that to them, he actually has a chance to redeem himself at the end of the story.
It sounds very interesting. That definitely is a lot of twists and turns on that one for sure. So yeah, that's a great book.
And
So
early in the book, the town, it's like a 1950s, like an old town, like from the like almost like Mayberry, and
yeah,
I think that will have a lot of appeal too.
great. Well, I want to make sure that we share your information. So if anyone wants to send you an email, they just go to author, speaker, Daniel Neff at gmail.com. And then, of course, your website is author, speaker, Daniel Neff.com. That's AUTHORSPEAKER, Daniel, DANIEL, and his last name is Neff, NEFF.com. So make sure you go there, and you can get the books there. You can go on Amazon.com and get them too if you want to get them there. But just get the books, and they've been a nice holiday gift, or nice, now that it's getting a little bit cooler outside, cozy by the fire reads. And so, yeah, so enjoy that. So we're going to take a quick break. When we
One
come
point
back,
about the books, if they go to the website, there's a page that says titles on Amazon, and then the cover image is a link that will take them right to the Amazon page where they can get the book.
Okay, so you just click
Just search.
cover. Yeah, just click the cover page and then take you straight into Amazon, and
Right.
you can buy the book there. So that's great. That's great information. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the next 3 books, and we'll cover those real quickly. And what a joy it is to have you on. But our this is your last book, right? The latest book, I should
Yes.
say.
Yes.
Into Each Life a Little Rain Must Fall. And we're talking with Daniel Neff, the author of that book. So that is his latest book. So we'll try to be real quick on the 2 and then cover the last one there for you, which is what our show is about. So you guys, this is Going Solo with Cece. I will be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory, and you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Going Solo with Cece. I am Cece Schatz, the doyen of relationship building. We are on GoingSoloMedia.com. Be sure to check out all of those shows that are on there, all those wonderful hosts and guests. And today we're in a treat. We've got a treat for you. We're actually talking with Daniel Neff, and Daniel Neff is the author of 6 different books. His latest book is Into Each Life a Little Rain Must Fall. Daniel Neff is again he's the author, and we talked about the first 3 books that he wrote, and now we're going to talk quickly about the last 3, so we can make sure we cover this latest book that he has. Of course, you guys can find all the books on Amazon.com. You can go to his website, pretty easy to find. It's author speaker Daniel Neff, Neff.com. Just click on the picture of the book, send you right to Amazon where you can buy the book. And we hope that you'll do that. So let's talk, Daniel, a little bit about your 4th book.
Okay. I believe my 4th book, I'm trying to remember the order that I wrote them in, but I believe it was the only other book I wrote that's not a fiction book. It's a nonfiction book about my Christian faith, and the title of it is I Am Perfect in God's Eyes. Like, in God's Eyes is a subtitle because I wanted to make it clear. I don't think I'm perfect. I know I'm not perfect, but the Christian faith tells us that we're all broken and affected by sin. And when we come to Christ, we are redeemed. But of course, as long as we live in this body until this life ends, we still have a lot of problems, and we're still, so far from perfect. But I kind of believe my philosophy is that now, when God looks at me, He doesn't see the me that is wrecked by sin. He sees the me that will exist in eternity, that is the me that He initially intended before sin messed me up. And so that's there's just a little more to it, but that's the basic premise of that book.
Right. It's a wonderful book. So and then the book after that one, or they might be out of order, so not to worry. But you wrote 6 books, so we're going to try to cover them all.
Yes. Then there's also and I consider it more of a novella than a novel because it's a little shorter. All the other books are pretty much normal length of a fiction book. The 5th one is called When You Die in Your Dreams, and it was just I don't even really remember how that idea came to me, but there's an old saying that when you die in your dreams, you die in real life. And so the book is about this man who's an author. Surprise, surprise! It's amazing how many authors they write stories about, where the title character is an author. But So he's had some success, but he's really struck a point where he's really struggling in his life. And so he goes down to his basement. That's where he writes, and he's walking, he's pacing back and forth, and he gets a great idea for a new book. And his excitement to rush to his typewriter or his laptop. It's showing you how old I am saying typewriter. There's probably some people saying, "What's a typewriter?" But he knocks his head on a pipe, a low-hanging pipe, and falls down and knocks himself out. And the rest of the book is what's going on, like in his mind as he's laying there unconscious. And he goes through these adventures that take him like off this planet into space, and it's a whole really kind of hard to describe. It's almost like sci-fi fantasy. And again, I don't want to give away the ending, so I'm not going to tell. But I think the ending has an interesting twist to it.
Yeah, very creative. You definitely are creative. And it's interesting to see that you can go from, non-fictional to fictional, in your writing, to be able to shift those gears to be able to do that. So that's really fascinating. And then your last book, Into Each Life, a Little Rain Must Fall. And so I think that's in a song, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's in a song, but it's an old poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and the name of the poem is Rainy Day. And the first stanza of the poem goes something, I'm pretty sure I have it memorized, but it's be still, sad heart, and cease repining. Behind the clouds is the sun still shining. Thy fate is the common fate of all. Into each life some rain must fall. Some days must be dark and dreary. And so, like, kind of the concept there is that everybody goes through some stuff, some difficult times, some has rain fall in their life,
Mm-hmm.
and so this book is the one that's very influenced by my time working with troubled teenagers in group homes, but it's completely fictional, and it's about a boy who he is abused by his mother. And again, like we were talking about content earlier, I try to be very vague because he's abused both physically and the other way by his mother's boyfriend. And then this gets turned in because I think one of his teachers says something. And so the guy gets arrested, sent to jail. Jamie is the main character. He gets taken from the home and put in a group home. And most of the story takes place at the group home, where he starts to find some healing and get positive direction in his life and get going in the right direction. And then, unfortunately, when he starts to do really well, and this happens a lot in the group home industry, is they send him back home to live with his mother, even though nothing's changed. Although the abuser no longer lives there, but she hasn't made any changes in her life. And I've discovered through years and years working with troubled teenagers that it's not the kid that's broken, it's the family, it's the parents, it's the home dynamic. And if you take that kid out and put him back and nothing's changed in the home, he's going to revert right back to the way he was. But in this, well, I don't want to give away too much if I tell, but it's I think and one thing I do want to share, that if people do get the book and read the story, that this book is not the end of the story, because I already have the sequel to this pretty much completely written. I just don't have the final edits and have it published, but the story is written to completion, and that I already have the title for that. The title for that one, I'm calling it, is What Comes After the Rain. So the first one's Into Each Life, the Rain Must Fall, and then the second one is What Comes After the Rain. And one of the themes that's in both books, and it's kind of a mystical theme, but basically the story takes place in Minnesota. I said it in Minnesota, even though I've never been there. I did live in Maine for about 4 years when I worked in the group home industry. And I didn't want to use the place where I'd lived and worked, because I think I was worried about if I used too much similarity, I could be liable. So I chose Minnesota because I figured it would be similar like similar climate and whatnot.
Mhm.
And so anyway, where the boy lives is in southern Minnesota, and the group home is in northern Minnesota, 3 to 4 hours away. Well, there's a river that runs from his hometown all the way north and then through the town where the group home is. And there's a waterfall in that town where the group home is. And the waterfall has an ancient Native American story associated with it where what the Native Americans used to do is when someone died, they would tie their body to a raft, put them out in the river above the waterfall. They'd go over the waterfall, the raft would be destroyed, and the river would take their body. So this one young warrior died in battle, and the woman that loved him was so distraught that she knelt by the edge of the river for 7 days for her love to come back to her. And at the end of 7 days, he walks out of the river, he come back to life. And so the waterfall has kind of like a redemptive property, and that plays into the other stories. But above the river, it has this property. And I had when I was trying to, like, when you write a book, you have to come up with names for a lot of things, towns, people,
Mhm.
whatever. And so I had done an internet search, and I came across this interesting story about there was this Greek explorer who had supposedly, I think it was fictional, but discovered this river in India that had this property where nothing could ever float in this river. Anything that you threw in the river that should have floated would sink to the bottom.
Mhm.
Well, that it was named the Silas River, Sillas. So I dropped one L and made it the Silas River. And above the waterfall from the boys' town all the way to the waterfall, this river has that same property where nothing can float in it. Everything just sinks to the bottom. And even the town coroner had discovered this property, and because they didn't have enough money to do things the way they should have, he would take the bodies, especially if they're unclaimed, just like kind of like a John Doe, and he would just toss the body in the river, and the
Oh,
body would sink into the river and would never come back up and float because nothing in that river ever floats.
wow. Okay. That's something. But is that fictional or is that part real?
That's fictional. That's totally fictional. That just all.
Wow. Okay. Very creative writing for sure, because I'm like on my edge of a seat listening to that. But
And I
yeah.
feel like the river and those properties are kind of a metaphor for the town where he lives, and the whole county is a very depressed county.
Mhm.
And there's just a lot of depression, not really any hope. And then what enters into the story is there's a man who kind of befriends Jamie and his mother because his brother had died years earlier when he tried to stand up to an abuser who was abusing a young girl, and
Mhm.
this man was killed. And the man's brother had a lot of guilt because the man's brother went to church and thought about inviting his brother, but was afraid he'd make fun of him, so didn't. And his brother ends up dying. That happens early in the story, so I don't feel too bad about giving that away. But
Mhm.
anyway, and one thing, it's funny when you write. A lot of times you don't consciously put everything in there that comes out in the story or the book. And I didn't even think about, for some reason, I don't remember why I put the waterfall in there, other than the fact that the redemption is a common theme in my
Mhm.
writings. But the group home being in the town where that waterfall is, the group home is also kind of a place of redemption for Jamie, where he goes after being abused and he's struggling in school, and he goes to this group home and he finds kind of redemption in his life and everything.
Well, it sounds, not only we know it's fictional, but we do know that a lot of people are struggling. And so, it's like you said, there's always like a good part at the end, or, a meaning within the story itself. And so that's important. So great. And then I just wanted to ask you, so this book here, the Into Each Life, A Little Rain Must Fall, and you said you're already writing a sequel. Is it going to continue on with that young boy's life, or is it going to be something totally another?
Um,
Or,
I don't know how I should answer that because I don't want to give
well,
away.
then I guess we're just going to have to wait and
Yeah,
see.
Yeah, and that's not like some cheap tactic to try and get people to wait and buy the next book, but I really don't want to give away,
That's fine.
what
That's
happens.
fine. Well, I'm curious because because it sounds like a very interesting book, and since we know that there's going to be a sequel after that, so yeah, so let's leave it there. But everyone, please, I mean, what a talented author we have with us here today, and you just go to his website, which is author speaker Daniel Neff NEFF.com. All of his books are on there. Just click the picture, go straight into Amazon. You can buy the book there. And, this time of year, it's always great to have something on your reading list. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel. We do appreciate it. We're going to have to close out the show. Time has gone by so quickly. So any last words you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Mhm.
And tomorrow, not really pertinent, but tomorrow is my birthday, and it's my 60th birthday.
Oh, happy
So,
birthday to you. I would sing, but I don't carry a very good singing voice, but happy birthday. So in advance, well, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show here today. I hope you enjoy your birthday. The holidays are approaching, so I hope that you'll enjoy that. And everyone, please, again, go to author speaker Daniel Neff, NEFF.com, and that's where all of his books are. And keep in tune because there's sounds like another couple books are right on the horizon of coming forward. So definitely want to do that. Well, this has been an interesting show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Going Solo with Cece. I am Cece Schack, the doyenne of relationship building, and I hope that you will watch us here right on the goingsolomedia.com. So we'll see you next time. Bye.